Drums. Yes, drums in GarageBand. There are a heap of ways to add them, and I thought I would show you all 5 different ways to add drums and a few little hints and tips along the way for getting the best out of the different drums here in GarageBand. So number 1. Manual drums. You can come in here and just tap on the drums here and you'll go straight to a drum kit. In this case, I've got an electric kit here. But to change our drum kits here on the iPad, we tap in the middle there and we can actually go to any acoustic, electric or percussion kit. Now, if you're on an iPhone, you'll need to actually drop it down in the corner and select it. So there'll be a little arrow in the corner here. You drop it down and you select the kit rather than having it right here in the middle. Let's go to an acoustic kit. So something like the Bluebird, one of my favorite acoustic kits. And now to record in some drums, pretty straightforward. Yeah, we hit the record button and you literally play the drums in on the screen with your fingers. Let's see how well Pete can play drums live here and lay down a bit of a basic groove. I'm just going to go bass drum and snare drum here just to get a simple groove. So we'll hit record, 2, 3, 4, and we'll go. And there you go, we've recorded that. That's all good. Now, you might be saying, well, that's really good, Pete, but what about your cymbals and whatnot? Well, this is where there's actually a couple of little options. I said I'd give you some tips along the way. If we tap on this little mixer icon here and go to track settings, we can go to recording and notice how merge recordings is on. Now, if that was off, if we re-recorded over this, it would record over the top of the drums. But with merge recordings on, this is the coolest tip you have with these drums. Because if we want to layer up our drum kit all on that one track, we can actually do this. Because now if we go back to our drum by tapping there, and we get ready to hit the record button. All right, let's just record in a little hi-hat pattern here. So 2, 3, 4. There you go. And we've recorded that. And look what happens. Yeah, it records it over the top of that one. We'll do it one more time just to show you the flexibility of that. We want a few crash cymbals in here. So we're building up our track now. Let's get ready to hit a crash cymbal. Now, as you're hearing there, one of the challenges here with drums is getting the velocity right, yeah? So what I tend to also do is if you come in here to your recording options here, no, that's the wrong spot. I'm in the wrong thing. You've got to go to your drums. See, even after this, there you go. As soon as you go to your drums, see how we get velocity sensitivity? I'll do that one more time because I've confused myself there. So if you've got your drum track here and you go to your track settings, you've only got quantization and recording mode, right? As soon as you go to the drum option though, you get a third option here, velocity sensitivity. Now what I tend to do is record my drums with velocity sensitivity off because it gives me a more consistent sound, or at least on low. And let me know if you're watching this live or if you're watching the replay, do you use velocity sensitivity or do you turn it off? The beauty of it off is that you don't get those half hits and problems like you do when you've got velocity sensitivity high, where, you tap it and it doesn't quite work. Now, not all is lost because, of course, with your drums and with any track here in GarageBand, you can edit. So if we tap here and we tap on edit, we can do this and we can come in and move any of these around. So we can tap each drum and there's that hi-hat. So if we didn't want that one, we can just delete it off that first beat. And there's our secondary hi-hat. There's our open hi-hat. And all of these, you'll see, have a velocity setting here. So that one's right in the middle there. Let's just find, so here's our snare. They're all, see, that one was way too loud, right? So we can tap on velocity and go, actually, we don't want the velocity that loud. We want it to be down here like the rest of them. And then it will sound a lot more uniform. And again, that one, too loud again. Too loud, so velocity, got to be careful, tap, velocity, drag it down, and there you go. So drums, manual drums can be pretty cool, but yeah, I would suggest, as Tom Rochelle's saying here, best to turn it off and adjust in edit mode. So that's what I've tended to find, is that you go into your drum here, remember you've got to be in the actual drum view, hit track settings, and then velocity sensitivity, turn it off, or at least have it low, that way you'll be doing less editing in the post-production. So that's number 1 way of adding drums, but you would have noticed it's a bit clunky. You got to know how to play drums. You got to have your rhythm going. What if you want something a little smarter? Well, that's where our smart drums come in. So let's hit the plus button here. This time, we're going to tap smart drums. Now, these have been around for ages. They've had a bit of a facelift, so they look a little bit cooler now. But we can actually use, again, any one of our kits. So we'll tap here. We're on the hip hop machine. Actually, no, I'd say that any one of our kits. We are restricted to only a certain number of kits by default. There's ways you can work around that. Maybe we'll talk about that in a future video. But let's come in here and say we wanted to go back to that classic studio kit. We can grab, say, a kick drum and drag it in here. Now, you'll notice here we've got simple and complex. We've got quiet and loud. So for a kick drum, let's just say we wanted it to be around about there. We wanted it to be sort of pretty loud, but a reasonable simple sort of kick. There we go. Now we'll bring our snare in. We want the snare to be also as loud, but a little bit more complex. Grab a hi-hat. Let's go with a simple hi-hat, but still at sort of a slightly lower volume maybe. That's not really doing much, is it? Bring it up a bit. There you go. And then we'll bring some cymbals in. We'll keep them simple. Down there. And there you go. You can turn it on and off just by hitting your button here. And to record that in, turn off. To record that in, all we need to do is record and hit the button. So let's just mute out our first drums. We'll tap on this drum icon to come back to our smart drum grid. That's what we've lined up. We hit the record button. And then it'll turn on and it's recording in those drums. Easy peasy, right? Now, what's kind of fun here, so again, that's going to be a pretty basic sort of beat and doesn't really do much for you, but it's going to be consistent. It's going to be right on the grid and it's going to be super easy to do. But what we can actually do is just have some fun with this. And we can hit the reset button here. And it's going to go and give us something random. Roll the dice again. This beat is my recital, etc. Now I've got more of a country beat. So you can do that. You can hit the reset button here. Oh, not that one. You can hit the reset button here, and that will... Oh, I thought that brought it back to nothing. It shows how long it's been since I've actually used these. So as you can see, it's a little bit clunky, and I don't love the smart drums, but they're an option there. And the benefit of the smart drums is that you can come in here and you can edit any of these. So we can come in and we can... Oh, can we? Why can't I edit? Have I missed an option here? Do we not have the ability to edit smart drums? Wow. Okay, don't use smart drums. That would be my tip, because it doesn't appear that it records them as MIDI drums, but we don't seem to have an edit function. Did I miss a meeting on this one? What if we just duplicate this one out and grab this? Can we move it? No. Oh, wow. There you go. So you might have to use a tip that will show that I've showed in another video where you can turn drama tracks into drum tracks. Apparently you have to do the same with the smart drums. Who knew, right? Well, anyway, let's move on because I don't like the smart drums. Go away, smart drums. You bother me. We'll just delete out that one. We'll mute both of these. And let's go to one of the options that I do love. And you know what that is? That is our beat sequencer. Yeah, gotta love the beat sequencer. So this is like smart drums if it was done right, yeah? We need the beat sequencer to do this. Now, we've used acoustic kits to start with. Again, the beauty is you get all of your different kits, your percussion, your electronic, and your acoustic. Let's get a modern 808 beat, shall we? Everyone loves an 808, right? So here's what we can do with this. We can actually line up our grid here. And look, there's a whole bunch of options in here that we're not going to be able to cover all of them in this one. You've got a lot of options here where you've got different patterns you can put in. So say we wanted to just bring in a classic house pattern. We can go to our pattern browser down the bottom here and go boom. Yeah. Very cool there. You can turn your steps on and off down here. You've got velocity that you can adjust. So if you go to your mode, so that's your step mode, you can turn those on and off and adjust your steps. You can go to velocity mode, which means you can actually drag up and down the velocity of each individual hit and see how much better this is in terms of a display than actually having to go in and adjust them and do your MIDI roll editing. Just so much more intuitive. You got note repeat functions here, so you can tell it whether you want to repeat the note a bunch of times or not. There's just so much that you can do in here. There's chance, so you can even tell it if you want it to have a likelihood of playing it. So you can add in some randomness notice of if it will or won't play. Some of them will say it's going to be like a good chance, and some it's going to definitely play. And yeah, then you can just loop the start and the end here. So you can actually change up and say, all right, the kick drum, we want to loop just those bits. This one, we want to do the whole lot. The claps, we want to clap on every beat. And again, I've done this really quickly, but go in and explore yourself because there's so much here to do. If we now hit the button here, pretty cool, yeah? And what you're noticing there is that I haven't showed this, but there's actually two sections here. So it's actually going right across the whole 8 bars. So you can actually then come in here and adjust this separately to be different at the end. So you can get these to cut off at different points as well. If you've used step sequences before, you'll know what this is all about. If you haven't, get in there and play. You can't break anything, and you're going to have a heck of a lot of fun just experimenting with this. Once again, to record in, all we need to do is hit the record button. It'll turn on down here, and off it goes. There you go. So that's how you record in with the beat sequencer. Again, you got the dice there. My kids love doing this. Just roll the dice and see what it does. Pretty cool, yeah? Just keep rolling that dice. And of course, beat sequencer is not just for your electronic drums. You can use it to create some pretty cool acoustic sounds. Let's grab the 4 on the floor kit and hit this one. Interesting. All right, hit the dice. Pretty cool. And obviously, if we don't want to have, if we want to have more of the right sort of sound, what am I doing there? I'm saving a drum kit. All right, we won't do that. Come out, come out. We can hit the beats, the pattern here, and we can create, we can use our own pattern. Oh, why has it got 4 on the floor again? It's using, it's got these 4 on the floor patterns here. That's all right. We'll come down further. There we go. Something like the Sunset Ride. That's more fitting for an acoustic kit. Pretty cool, yeah. So that is scratching the surface literally, because there is so much that you can do with the beat sequencer. So let's jump into our next form of drums, and that is using Apple loops. Yep, loops, don't poo-poo them until you've tried them, because there's some very cool Apple loops right here in the loop browser. So to use Apple loops, all you need to do is tap on the loops icon in the top right. You need to come down here, and you can just find the loops yourself. There's 2 types of loops. There's just a standard audio file loop, or if you scroll down and look for the little yellow ones, you've got drummer loops, which we'll cover in the next one. Spoiler alert, we're going to look at drummer next. But let's just find, again, we can go to instruments here, and if we go to all drums, this is going to make it just drum-based loops. So let's just find, I actually love this Bebop drum set. So if we grab this one, all you need to do is tap it, drag it, and drop it. And then you've got a drum beat. A really loud one, apparently. Hopefully no one was, doing the dishes when it hit that first bang there. Hopefully no one was holding any antique china, and they're just like, swoo, smash. And like, thanks, Pete. I've just lost it. That's a pretty cool one. Yeah, we're being loud here today, aren't we? We'll turn the volume down. So you can just drag it in there. You've then got complete control, because you can use these just like any other audio file. So here you go. It's just a 2-bar loop, but it's looped out to 8 bars. We can grab the handle and bring it on back. We can tap it and do some cool things in here, like go to your settings. You can change up the gain there. You can change the speed. So say we wanted this to be a halftime kind of beat, we can do a bit of that. Turn into a bit of a 9 Inch Nails kind of vibe there. Add some distortion, you'll be home and hoped. You can even reverse it. You can adjust the tone. So if we wanted it to be like a higher kind of breakbeat kind of sound, you get something like this. Nice, see, we reversed it and we made it higher. So you can change it around and you can just experiment. And I recommend, the one thing I'll say about loops is experiment with them, because if you make a song that is just a couple of loops, chances are someone else has used just those loops in their exact default settings before, and you may get like copyright claims and things. So do change them up and do some, maybe not that intense, but yeah, you can change them up and do all sorts of things with them. The other thing you can do in here, you would have seen here, we've got files. So you can bring in, I've showed this before. If you search my name, Pete Johns Import Audio, you can actually import audio files into here. So here's one that I prepared earlier. If we grab this one and drag it in, now what you'll notice This one's at 96 BPM, yeah? And this track is at 110 BPM. So as I've dragged it in there, it hasn't lined up with our metronome. If we wanted to make sure we line it up, all we need to do first is make sure that your track BPM matches. So we go to 96 BPM, we'll then come in here to loops, and we'll grab this one, and it'll go boom. And look at that, sits beautifully right there in there. We'll just turn it down in case it's going to blow our ears off again. And we can hit play. There you go. There's our loop. Bring it back in with our bluebird. And you can start getting some custom beats by just bringing different types together. So what if we bring this and this and this? The matrix might explode. Kind of sounds like that the Butthole Surfers song, Pepper. I don't mind the sun sometimes. Right? Anyway, there's a lot of opportunity there. Let's go with our final one here, and that is our drummer. So we'll delete out that one, because that one's a bit weird. But number 5, the drummer. If we hit plus on there and we scroll on across, we get our drummer. Boom, there he is. So what we can do with drummer is we can either just tap it straight there or hit the more drummers option here. And this is where you get the likes of Kyle, the legendary Kyle himself. We've got Logan, we've got Anders, we've got all these different folks. You come in here, we'll just mute everything else, shall we, before we play this one, and hit the play button. And this is the quickest and easiest way to get a good drum sound in here. We can come straight in here, just find a drummer that matches the style you're going with. So here's Graham, our experimental songwriter. Cool, yeah? And then we can come in here, and if you want an electronic one, who do I like in the electronics? I like, who is he? Dez. I'm a Dez fan when it comes to the electronic, because he does this sort of stuff. The sort of music I don't make, but would love to make. Yeah. Anyone else feel the same way? They're like, I don't make this sort of music, but I love listening to that sound. So that is it. That is your drummer. Now, there is a very cool tip. If you're thinking, well, drummer looks cool, Pete, but I like the idea of these green ones because I can come in here. If I do the drums myself and I program them myself, I can edit them. Well, guess what? You can actually change your drummer track into a real drum track. And instead of telling you about that right now, I've linked to that video down in the description. So if you want to follow on from this one, if you've missed that video that's already been released about how to do that, you can check that out in the description